Welcome back to another video. Today what we're going to cover is a little bit more on the homework assignment. Um, Two things, some that we talked about in class, some that we didn't. If you don't have CS5, some of the class discussion will be less helpful to you because we went through a few new features that actually will boost contrast and definition in a photo with CS5. But what we're going to talk about in this video is are a couple ways that you could to boost those elements, contrast, brightness, detail, things like that, by just using normal adjustment layers under the adjustment tab. So I'm going to start with a normal background layer, and I am not going to duplicate this because actually what we're doing here is non-destructive. So if I wanted to, I could duplicate it with a Control J. It's a shortcut. I'm going to Control Z that because I don't need it. But because these are non-destructive, if I were going up here and saying edit or image adjustments, brightness and contrast, that would be a destructive change, and we've talked about that a little bit. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to just choose brightness and contrast, and that creates a new layer here that can be turned on or off. We haven't changed these settings for it. You notice the adjustment tab now changes. If I were to choose this, we'd go back to add an adjustment for the adjustment tab. It would say add an adjustment. We'd be able to pick from these 4, 8, 9, however many adjustments there are here. I'm not going to go through and count them. But anyway, the point is that when you select an adjustment, the tab changes to be the adjustment we're talking about. So we're going to boost this up a bit. I also think we need it's a bit washed out, so we need a bit more adjustment. So there we go. That's a better image. Boosting that contrast up quite a bit. So what I like to do is I like to say before, after, before, after. Also, I have talked in the past about this use legacy option. If you check use legacy, you actually get a significant amount more oomph to these settings. And they act a little bit different. I usually don't use this legacy option. So let's go back to where we were. And then we'll go here. And that looks decent. Again, some of the nice new features in CS5 are hard to duplicate, but so what we can do is now we can either go click here and say add an adjustment and click a new adjustment. We're going to probably do levels. Or if we were already on an adjustment and it was showing us the calibration for that one, there's this little back button here, and we can say back, and now we have this add an adjustment layer. So we can say add levels. And we haven't talked about levels, but basically what levels does is these are your darks, these are your lights, and this whole histogram here is an array of, it's a graph basically of all the pixels, all the pieces of color in your image. So you have very, very few that are pure white, very, very few that are pure black, but a lot of grays, and then another bump here, and then a spike of whites. So that's probably the window and the chair. The window is probably about here because it's kind of gray. The chair is probably a few spikes here. And so you have these three little tick marks here. This one, and this one. This is sort of your balance point. So we're not going to mess with that right now, but what we are going to mess with are these two tick marks. This one and this one. And the importance of these is that it actually can give you a cleaner, crisper image if you shrink these in, because what it does is it sort of consolidates some of these brighter pixels and it makes them all the same value. And so what you actually get is you say, okay, everything past this point, say I were to drag this over here, everything to the right of this, so anything here, anything past the right of this is now all the same value. So now we actually have a broader range of values but we have a less punchy image. And so you can see as we start to consolidate more and more and more and more, then we lose data. And this is losing data. You are losing data, you are consolidating pixels, you are turning something that was nearly white into pure white just because you're sliding this to the left. And if you want, there is a shortcut. If you hold down Alt while you slide this, you can actually see the pixels that you're consolidating. So you can see immediately, I'm going to go to the far right here, start to slide to the left. Immediately the white chair says, okay, those were almost white, so we're going to call them totally white. And that's the red. Now we start to hit the window. More of the window, kind of the back of the curtain, more of the chair. Pretty soon we'd get the floor, and if we release, we'll see, yes, it's pure white, pure white, pure white. So that's what it's sort of doing. It may not be, that my explanation may not be the ultimate scientific explanation. There might be more nuances to it than that, but for the purposes of using the tool, that's what you need to know. And from the left is blacks. So you are calling the whole left of the image completely black if you slide this over. Probably don't want to do that. But what you can do is get a punchier image and a better image if you slide this in a bit. So now, a little shortcut is, if you only want to show the background, or even this layer, any layer, if you click on the eye, that actually turns that off. But if you Alt-click on the eye, that only leaves that eye showing. So you can do a real quick before and after. Okay, am I improving things or am I not? Okay. After is much better, obviously. So those are some of the nuances of levels and brightness and contrast. You can very easily explore on your own some of these other ones. Curves is more of a scientific approach to levels. Or not scientific, but a more advanced approach to levels. I wouldn't branch into curves yet, quite yet. I would work with levels mostly. Exposure, a lot of these are as you would expect. Hue and saturation, we've already covered in another video. And be aware, of course, just a quick review, that if we were to paint this on this adjustment layer with the brush tool, we could hide, I'm painting black now, we can hide this, and then if we paint white, we can reveal this adjustment layer, this levels adjustment. And if you ever just decide, you know, doggone it, I just want all white or all black, you can just go to Shift F5 or Edit Fill. See Shift F5 there. And since you're on this, you can say black or white. White would be reveal everything, so that's probably what we want because we liked the adjustment. So, little difference there. Might punch this even a bit more. There we go. So at least on my screen that looks decent, and so you can take it from there.